don't know if you've seen this one. You might want Hi, welcome to Top Table with me, Nick Church. Today we have magician Darren Campbell with us. I'm going to jump right into some quotes today. We love working with Darren, not just because he's a fabulous performer, but because he's so personable and professional. He has a wonderful way of interacting with guests so that it feels personal rather than a performance. Lastly, it says, couldn't recommend Darren highly enough. His energy and personality, along with his magic, brought us so many laughs to our guests and astonished faces throughout the day. So Darren's mum there giving some wonderful feedback for him. Now, these are all genuine reviews. Now, the reason I'm bringing those ones up is because that attention to the personality and the person behind the performer, I think, is really important. That's what this channel is aiming to do. All right, some Darren facts for you. Now, let's see how good our researchers are here, so you have to correct us if we get any wrong. He was from Cheltenham but moved to Bristol. Darren studied at Circa Media, which is a school for circus skills and performing arts. Career highlights include winning a Wedding Industry Award in 2013, winning Olympic gold medal for the 4x100 metres relay in Athens 2000. Okay. Right, Darren, according to Facebook, Darren has at least one wife and one child, according to his profile. Great. Come on. We're better than that, aren't we? Anyway, so let's forget about the researchers. Great to have you here, Darren. It's been a while since we worked together. Zoe and Chris's wedding at Orchardly. How's things going?
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for those kind words.
What is your mum?
It's been a terrible year, hasn't it? So, but I'm all right. I'm doing okay.
I've got some pictures of you performing with Zoe and Chris, and their amazed faces. And if you look at Darren's website, which I'll put up as well, you can see so many photos from all of the photographers who love to capture Darren's tricks and entertaining the guests. So there's loads of photos of that. So COVID has, for all wedding suppliers, has just been a massive knock this year. How exactly has that affected your business?
Some people are on to their third or even fourth postponement with me. And it's just trying to accommodate everyone and keep the couples happy, make sure that you're doing okay as well. Because, you know, suppliers, we can think, oh gosh, this is terrible, you know, we haven't got any work. But then you've got to look at the couple's perspective as well. You know, they've spent sometimes 2 years planning this wedding.
Absolutely.
And now they've got to change everything. They're told they can't have the number of guests they want. And then if they do postpone, they might not be able to have all the suppliers that they, you know, had wanted and booked. If you go from having 100 guests to having 30 guests or having 15 guests, you know, ultimately it's going to be a very different day, isn't it? So I think that's been a struggle.
Have you been busy doing other things then? What's been filling your time?
I have a 3-year-old son.
So the researchers were right on
they
that.
Were correct
on
on that. Yeah, and one wife.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's been filling my time. So I haven't really been working very much. I've had a couple of weddings, one with kind of 27 guests and one with 15 guests when the restrictions were made a bit tighter. And I did a few cabaret nights at a venue in Gloucestershire, Elmore Court. They were brilliant fun.
I saw some photos of those. That did look fun.
Yeah, really good fun. But yeah, other than that, some new material for my act.
I suppose that downtime is useful, at least for that.
Yeah, that's it. And working on, you know, the business side of things, taking a look at your website and things like that, trying to be productive as I can with the downtime. That being said, you know, it's difficult to stay productive when it's been going on as long.
I know.
You know?
Well, I'm the first to admit, I you know, in July, I think I put a blog post out saying, pretty sure by about now, it'll all be over. You know, you'll be ready to be back to normal, so. There's a question from Betty Bandari, photographer. Betty's in my Facebook group, Nick Church Photography Collective Facebook group. So any photographers out there or filmmakers, do join that. It's great for collaboration, support, and just a great place to hang out, really. So she asks, most of your work is close magic. How have you had to adapt that for these things like the events at Elmore Court, for example?
Yeah, so with the events at Elmore Court, it's a COVID secure event. I wear a visor and I approach with my own smaller table, almost like a music stand, that I'll put like kind of in front of their table. And they're small, like round cabaret tables, you know, with a little light on it and everything. And I basically perform to them. I've adapted my material so they don't have to touch anything. So literally everything is hands off.
Mm-hmm.
And that was tough because
I bet.
I've spent, I've been doing this full time for about 7.5, almost 8 years. I spent all that time trying to make it in the spectators' hands.
Yeah.
You shuffle the cards, you hold that, you do that, and I'm quite a hands-on person when I'm performing.
Yeah.
So with the weddings, I've only done a couple of weddings kind of in the kind of COVID climate, as it were. And the first one I did was in September, and that was at Matara Centre. That was outside. So what we discussed with Matara is I was like, how do you want me to approach this? Do you want me to wear a mask? Do you want me to... And they were like, just social distance yourself, and then we're happy with that. And I think it's important, that I adhere to what the venues are doing.
Of course, yeah.
And so I just stayed socially distanced from everyone. There was 27 guests, so I performed for people at a distance, adapted the material, so maybe I played it slightly bigger than I usually would, if that makes sense.
A bigger pack of cards?
No, not a bigger packet of cards. I could have gone down that route, I guess, but just played it slightly big for them and kind of made it, I guess, slightly more theatrical.
Right.
And that worked really well. I did another wedding, 15 guests, so once the restrictions have been made a bit tighter, and that was at Kingscote Barn. And that, we had to be a bit more because we were indoors because the weather wasn't great. So I wear a face visor because that way you still get the facial expressions and they can see me, more and projections.
Which you can't with a mask, of course.
It's difficult. It's just difficult being heard and everything like that. And I had a little table that I set up in the bar area. I would invite people in 2 at a time. That way I can manage who I'm performing for, make sure social distancing is in place, but also, make sure that I'm not overcrowded by people. It felt like a little exclusive performance for them almost. I really enjoyed doing it, actually. I think it worked really well. Interesting, fun event, because everyone's been kind of at home doing things on Zoom. There's only so many quizzes, people can take.
Yeah, that's very true. And with the adaptations that you've made, they did still have the same, the bare bones of the event that they planned was happening. They were being entertained, but just with some adaptations and still had that night out, which is great. I mean, I know that fortune telling isn't in your repertoire particularly, it might be, but how do you see the next, say, 12 months playing out?
It's so hard to say, isn't it? Because I, for one, back in March, was thinking, July, I'll be back doing all the weddings, and I couldn't have been more wrong. And so I don't want to call it, but with all the postponements that I've had, like most wedding suppliers, 2021 is going to be a busy year, right? If it happens, and I think it will happen but I can't see them immediately coming back to how they were, because they've surely got to go 15 guests again, maybe 30 guests, and kind of build it up. Right. As that's how I see things going next year. But I just hope that.
Don't we all? Because we can't just continue having small businesses just being crushed by this, or certainly the events industry. So going on to your history, your background, fascinated to ask. Was magic something you've always been interested in, even as a child?
No. So I got into magic probably teens. Right. Yeah. Someone at school showed me a trick, didn't know how it worked, was frustrated beyond all belief. Yeah. And then I found out how it worked and kind of started learning. But it was around the same time that David Blaine was on telly, before he started doing big stunts and when he was doing magic. Yeah. And that sort of fascinated me, and I loved what he was doing. I loved the reaction it was getting. And then it was just like a hobby. It was only kind of afterwards, maybe a year or 2 after uni, where my housemate at the time was saying, he'd watch me mess about in our flat, and he'd be like, "Why aren't you doing that? Why?" I was working in bars and pubs and restaurants. That's kind of what I've always done with the family background. Right. Yeah. And he was like, "Why aren't you?" Good research. Why aren't you doing more of it? And around that time, I joined the Magic Circle in London because I was living there, and that was kind of a big kind of confidence boost because it's quite an exclusive club to join and quite hard to get into. And when I passed the exam, I was kind of like, maybe I could do this.
How was it going from your housemates and family and friends to then being in front of a...
Oh, it was nerve-wracking. And I remember one of the first gigs I did, I got there like an hour early, but I didn't know what to do. Nowadays, if I'm early for a wedding, I know the wedding venues pretty well, so I know where I can be and where I can't be. So I'm not like, I don't walk into the side of the ceremony or anything.
Hello, I'm early.
You know when you're going to be on and everything like that. Standing kind of outside the building for like 40 minutes, getting really cold. It was like November time. But yeah.
You said about David Blaine. Do you think was there a bit of a resurgence in magic where it became popular and trendy?
Definitely. I think what David Blaine did was really focus on the reactions of people, and that's what made it really impressive. Is having that kind of close up. Mainly he did it on the street, just kind of just throwing it on his head, and kind of it was the reaction.
It felt full of energy, didn't it? And
absolutely. Yeah.
My son Ethan, he was into magic for a time, about same sort of age you were, sort of 14, 15. I'm sure it's because all of that.
When you have someone on TV like David Blaine, Dynamo, even the Britain's Got Talent magicians on there, it just keeps it in people's mind as kind of like an art form or as something that you could have at an event. So it's kind of like when there's loads of magicians on Britain's Got Talent and people are watching it and they like that, they're like, oh, maybe, yeah, we could have a magician. They see a magician at a wedding fair, they're like, oh yeah, a magician at a wedding fair.
So it's in your mind with other types of performers where probably 15 years ago wouldn't have been for a wedding, would it? You would have. Absolutely. It's amazing that you've managed to sort of keep that passion going throughout.
Yeah. I think it's always nice if you manage to turn a hobby into a profession.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of always nice. It's nice because you really enjoy it, and and it's great doing it. But then you also lose your hobby, which is interesting.
Those reviews I said at the start, they were honestly randomly just 3 reviews picked, and you've got hundreds. Those reviews are all saying the same thing about your personality, about the energy, and that's the thing. And that must be great, right? To read through those and get that feedback.
It's lovely. It's lovely, but it's kind of that's my strength for sure. I'm a great magician. Don't get me wrong. There are way better magicians out there than me, but it's the social skills, and it's being able to adapt to your audience, and it's knowing your audience as well,
right?
Because it's being able to judge it, and I can have a good laugh, and I'm very good at judging.
To get it right is a real talent, and that must be so much more important for a performer than any other supplier, because any other supplier, you don't necessarily need to be, the most personable person if you're providing a fantastic product. But with you, it's the same thing, isn't it? The product
it's the same thing, yeah. It's very much the same thing, and it's like you've got to be a social chameleon. That's how I describe it. You've just got to adapt.
It must be pretty exhausting as well.
Yeah. I absolutely love it. But with any performance, you're on, even though I might only be at a wedding for an hour and a half, 2 hours, like performing time. I've got to make sure everyone has a great time and make sure I see the bride and groom and make sure
you're battling with the photographer that also wants to take them off from
photos. Exactly. No, I think it complements it though, because like I kind of like stay with everyone whilst all the key members of the family get taken out for photos, and I kind of like have my time with them, and then they come back, and it's quite good. And then I always see the couple towards the end of the drinks reception, or if it's the evening, it's easier if it's the evening because there's kind of less photos happening at that point during the drinks. Yeah. But we always, I always liaise with photographers. That's something you've got to learn as well. You've got to like fit in with other suppliers. It's not all about me. Getting their photos is more important in that moment. And I said it to them like, that's what I'm doing. I'm taking care of your guests so that they have a great time. Yeah. You're going to be busy, doing this and that. But you are busy on the day. There's so much you've got to do. Saying hi to it's exhausting.
It is exhausting. It's hard work. And I say to my couples all the time that try and enjoy it. And that's why I don't take the couples off for an hour for photos. Much rather do 15 minutes or so and get some time later on and do another 15 minutes, another 15, apart from getting more variety of photos.
The last wedding we did, Chris and Zoe at Elmhay Park, Orchardly Walk Garden.
Right,
yeah. What I tend to do is I tend to take the couples off and show them a little piece of magic.
Yeah.
For a couple of reasons. One, I kind of take them away. I'm like, how are you guys doing? And I always like to have a little chat with them about it. I'm like, how's it going? And they're like, oh yeah, it's good. It's a bit overwhelming, Like I love hearing that during the drink reception. I love kind of like hearing how it's going. But also, I take them away because I show them something that none of the guests get to see really.
Right.
It's a special piece of magic that I do for the couple. And also, it's a great opportunity to work with the photographer and say, look, this is what I'm going to do. blah, blah, blah. And like when we worked together, I think I probably, as we were walking down, I said, right, Nick, this is what I'm going to do. And I basically told you what was going to happen kind of ahead of time.
Yeah.
So you knew. And it's a really nice moment, and it normally gets really amazing photographs, and it's a nice moment to have with them. And then we walk back to the group, and it's like, that's kind of, they go and sit down for the meal.
So performers like David Blaine have got that persona of being quite mystical. From a magician's point of view, would you say that is their character, or how much is a performance that they're putting into it?
It all depends on the performer. I think someone like David Blaine, I think that is an extension of his personality. As in, and similarly to how I perform, when I perform, that's me 150%, if that was possible, you know? Yeah. It's kind of like 10 it to 11.
Right.
You like that reference? As a musician. That's what you're doing. You're extending your personality to be a bit larger than life. And with David Blaine, he's just extending it, but his goes a little bit more strange because that's his performance.
I suppose his character is, so his character's a bit like that anyway. Yeah. And so when he pushes it, he becomes that quite dark kind of,
but incredibly intense and incredibly engaging. Like if you watch him on any of the chat shows that he did last year, I think he was on Jimmy Fallon. Right. Yeah, it's great. He does great material on it, and he's got a great way of just like looking at the person, and they're immediately on edge. Because, like, you know...
And he's not saying anything.
He's not saying anything. He's just looking at them, and he's quite intense. Yeah. But, you know, that's one way. And then, you know, Dynamo's kind of got another way. And then the older school magicians have got different ways. You know, it's just... But it is, I think it's an extension of the personality. That's interesting, right. Your son's now, is he 3? 3, yeah, recently. Right. So the last few years then, you've had a baby in the house or a toddler in the house. How's that changed your sort of Saturdays working at weddings? Is that made it different? Yeah, it has made it different. I was thinking, how do I answer this question? It's like, will my wife watch this? Do subscribe. That's an extra person. How do I say this? When he came along, there's a shift. I don't know if you found this, but there's a shift in kind of like that whole like provider thing, that part of your brain where it's like, before, you know, yeah, we've got responsibilities, you know, we've got a mortgage, we've got a dog, you know, but like when you bring a new person into the world, like there's this whole different thing. And I had this thing kind of switch in me, and I was like, oh no, I've got to make this work now. Yeah. But it's been working for years, but you know, it's kind of just a little bit more pressure. You know, my wife takes the brunt of it because like I'm away a lot of weekends, but like, you know, that's when I've got to work. So, and you know, sometimes it was a bit of, when he was really little, it was kind of a bit of a relief kind of being away sometimes. Yeah. But then, you know, it's just tricky with the night stuff and everything. It's kind of like, but then coming home is the greatest thing ever if he's still awake. You know, if I'm just doing an afternoon wedding, I haven't got one in the evening, coming home is amazing, isn't it? You know, when they're that little, it's just like your own fan club. Yeah, my fan club, the boy, the dog, the wife, and less excited to see me ready for a break. Well, it's not just holding the baby, right? Welcome home. It's your turn. Yeah. So another question from the Nick Church Photography Collective Facebook group is: if you could make someone disappear, who would it be? And would you wait until he has to leave the White House first? So he's on the way out anyway. Yeah. I always get asked questions like that at weddings, like, can you make my wife disappear and stuff like that. And like, that's a classic. The person who says it, they are delighted with themselves. And it's like, go on, listen to this. This is going to be classic. They bring out the joke. They've been waiting for ages. Yeah, I kind of love that sort of thing when those happen. And there are several ones. You know, can you make the wife disappear is the most popular one by far. All right. Groups I'm in that are for brides and grooms. So we've got a few questions from them as well. Yeah. How long do you tend to stay at most weddings? Yeah, so if I'm there for the drinks reception, I'll usually perform for an hour and a half. If I'm there in the evening, it will usually be 2 hours. Right. But usually an hour and a half drinks reception or 2 hours after the meal is good. Yasmin says, what's the worst thing that's happened at a wedding? Yasmin, worst thing that's happened at a wedding. I had a classic one where I did a trick and this man was so startled, like, you know, genuinely like, whoa, red wine. Oh, just all down the side of me, white shirt here, all the way down my waistcoat. And it's just one of those moments where you're just like, oh no, and you just smell a bit boozy for the rest of the gig. So that booked by this couple. The groom was so excited, loves magic, loved the idea of it, hadn't thought about it before, just genuinely like really excited. And he's dealing with me via email and everything, books it all in. 26th of October. I remember the day. I get a phone call, and I've just got in from the supermarket on Saturday the 25th of October.
Okay.
It's the groom. I just want to check, are you on your way? And I was pretty cool and calm about this. I was like, no, I'm not on my way. Because you booked me for the 26th of October. That's tomorrow. Yeah. It was the one thing that his wife had allowed him to book because he was so excited about it. And he booked me for the wrong day. So I was like, listen, don't worry, I'm going to be there. I'm not going to be there as long as I would be because I've got an event this evening. She was just like, Darren, I let him do one thing and he messes it up. I wasn't there for the speeches, but I know the best man mentioned it. A couple come back, they're like, really love what you do. But the groom was like, I've got a request. We're getting married on May the 4th. If I bought you a Jedi cloak, would you wear a Jedi cloak and do your magic sort of thing? And I was like, oh yeah, cool. We'll have to get some pockets put in it, but yeah, I'm up for it, sort of thing. I thought that everyone was going to be... I assumed when he said to me, we're having a Star Wars themed wedding on May the 4th, that they were like super fans and like everyone was going to be dressed up.
Star Wars cake, Star Wars flowers.
Well, there was like table plan and stuff, all Star Wars, like little figurines and stuff. That was about it. And me dressed as the Jedi. So all the guests were dressed normally, and I was just like, I hadn't twigged. I just thought everyone was going to be dressed up, but it was good. It was great fun, and I got some fun photos of me with the hood up, posing with them and all of that.
So I did email Darren beforehand and say if you wanted to bring any magic, I would love to see some. Because I am a fan of Darren and magic. And I don't know if you've seen this one. You may want to...
I love the fact you were still going into that.
That's okay. People are saying, that bloke's a prick. Yeah. Despite that, as you can see, I've got a natural gift for it. It's in your bones, isn't it, for us sort of people, that kind of skill. I still can't work out who. No, so I've forgotten now what you said. Yes.
Okay. So, before we do the trick, 2 things.
Right.
Or probably 3 things. This genuinely might not work.
Okay.
If it doesn't work...
It'll work on take 2 or take 3. Guarantee that.
Genuinely it might not work. I've kind of made a prediction here. It's written on the back of a business card that's on the table. I'm going to show it to you like that so Nick doesn't see it. I wanted to try and do a card trick that was kind of personable to you, something that maybe you could relate to. So on that note, let's try this. Can you see all those cards are different? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If I fan them nicely for you, probably better. There's no particular order to them or anything like that.
No.
No like logical order.
No, it looks random to me.
It looks random. That's good. I will give them a shuffle as well. Obviously, if we weren't separated by a screen and it wasn't the times that we're in, you'd be shuffling the cards, everything like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. The first one, I'm going to need 4 cards selected, almost like we're going to do a poker hand. Okay. But with one less card, you'll see why. But for the first one, I can't get you to take it. So if I riffle, just say stop. Stop. Perfect. Put that one there for now. We'll show the camera as well. That is the 4. You can look. 4 of hearts. Okay. That one's going to live there for now. We'll get a couple more as well. So maybe I'll do this next one. A little bit of shuffle as well. 4 hearts isn't your favourite card or anything like that, is it?
Nope.
Pretty random. No. Okay. A few cuts for this one. 7 of cups.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Mean anything to you?
No, it doesn't.
No?
No.
Doesn't mean anything to me either. Wasn't what I'd hoped for, if I'm being honest. Next one will fly out the pack through the air. What's that one?
7.
Of?
A 7 of diamonds.
Very nice indeed. And then...
I'm starting to feel a bit freaked out, I should say.
You're starting to feel freaked out?
Yep.
Are you?
But go on, yeah, go on.
All right. Okay. That's strange. And then the last one, we'll try it like this. Felt pretty good. Pretty kind of random. 4 spades.
Yep, that's it.
You're starting to see the pattern now, Nick.
I can, yeah.
What does the prediction say?
My birthday. 4th of July 1974.
That's the one?
That is mad. You are a Jedi.
So there you go, little trick.
That is crazy.
Little trick for Nick. 4th of the 7th, 74.
How the hell?
It's the only benefit about not working in 2020, because I can't do that trick in 2020, because I don't have a 20.
Yeah.
But in 21 I can.
Yeah.
In 19 I could, 18 I
You
could.
know, every cloud.
Yeah, every cloud, there you go.
Right, listen, Darren, thanks so much for coming today. It's been really great to chat to you, catch up, and still a bit blown away by that magic trick. I don't know how you've done that. I'm going to watch this back a few times, I reckon, and see if I can work that out, but I'm suspecting I can't because I was looking pretty closely. Anyway, thanks very much for coming, and hope to catch up with you soon.
Yeah, you too. And honestly, it was great to see your studio kind of in person. I remember
it's
seeing
great
it
to
on
have
your
you.
socials, like when you were having it built, but like, it's an amazing space, and you're doing a great job with this, so thanks for being
Hiding out, red around, that was robbing free air. We bonded, yeah. Tag along, slacker, and fast, running on the fear.